Hello, and welcome to today's Queer Spirit video. Today, we're going to be talking about Sylvia Rivera, one of our queer ancestors and one of the heroes of the Stonewall riots. Most people, when speaking and writing about Sylvia, use she, her pronouns, but Sylvia was very gender fluid and referred to themselves by a bunch of different gendered terms, and so I think they might use they, them pronouns if they were still alive. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. Sylvia has both Puerto Rican and Venezuelan heritage, and when they were three, their parents were both killed, so they were raised by their grandmother. Their name was not Sylvia at the time, and they were assigned male at birth. So their grandmother was increasingly disapproving of the effeminate characteristics that they displayed as they grew up, and so they became homeless by the age of 11, surviving through sex work in New York City. The name Sylvia came from a group of drag queens who adopted the young Sylvia and gave them that name. Even before the Stonewall riots, Sylvia was active in various other movements, including the Black Panthers, the Young Lords, and the anti-Vietnam movement. According to Sylvia's telling of the story of Stonewall, they were there on the first night and active in the riots. According to best friend Marsha P. Johnson's telling of the Stonewall riots, Johnson heard that the riots were happening and went and got Sylvia, and they both arrived 40 minutes later. We know for sure that Sylvia was at the second night of riots and subsequent nights. After Stonewall, Sylvia became active in the Gay Liberation Front and its successor organization, the Gay Activist Alliance. Sylvia, being the organizer and outspoken person that they were, would organize events for the Gay Activist Alliance and be the spokesperson until the media showed up, at which point the more straight passing members of the Gay Activist Alliance would essentially push Sylvia aside and eventually push them entirely out of the organization. Sylvia, of course, was really enraged by this and ended up essentially leaving the gay activist community for quite a number of years. Meanwhile, though, back when Sylvia was involved with the Gay Activist Alliance, they were also active with their best friend Marsha P. Johnson in starting the group Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, transvestite being the word in vogue at the time, which provided support and housing to queer youth in New York City. Having become homeless at the age of 11, homelessness was a major issue for Sylvia throughout their life. So in the 1980s, although they were not doing very much public activism, they did occasionally speak out for people with AIDS who were homeless. Sylvia's best friend, Marsha P. Johnson, was killed in 1992, and this seems to have spurred Sylvia back into the fray of LGBT organizing. Specifically, Sylvia became a very vocal critic of the various gay rights organizations for failing to adequately include transgender people, and specifically transgender youth of color, in their organizing. They were not thrilled that the gay rights movement chose marriage equality as their primary action through the 90s and early 2000s, and were critical of the Human Rights Campaign and the Empire State Pride agenda, among others. Sylvia suffered from liver cancer toward the end of their life and eventually died of liver cancer in 2002. On their deathbed, they came to an agreement with the head of the Empire State Pride agenda that that organization would do better by including transgender people and transgender rights in their agenda. After Sylvia's death in 2002, they have become more and more recognized as the hero they were in the Stonewall riots, but also in calling attention consistently and persistently to those most vulnerable in the queer community and often left out of the queer rights agenda. Youth, transgender people and specifically transgender youth, and specifically transgender youth of color. Sylvia, we honor you for your persistence, for your dedication, for your survival against all the odds, for never giving up on fighting for those who need us the most. May we remember to continually look to those most marginalized when we decide what is most important for our time and attention. Thanks for watching.